Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, however, wherever, whenever you're listening. This is the Roofer Wisconsin Show, episode 170, coming at you from the Riverwood Gallery Studio in De Pere, Wisconsin. I'm host, producer Eric Fisher. Joining me this week, we've got Sean Klosterman, member of the Highway 22 crew. Sean, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Welcome back. Uh, Had to go a little rogue last week, but we made it work, so we're back.
That we are.
All right. A jam-packed show this week. We've got Packers, Brewers. Not probably too much about the Badgers, but a lot on that front. So before we get into it, let's start with what we always do. Our friends over at RPW, Raging Pro Wrestling. Do you want to give them a shout out? We had Rich on last time we recorded for episode 169 and talked to Rich about the show that was coming up at the time, which at that point was RPW Destiny 5. And it was a lot of fun. Appearance, and I forgot about this that this was happening because we forgot to tease this, but um, Buff Bagwell was there and
Buff
got in the
Bagwell.
ring, and
Did he look as good as he did back in 2001?
considering he lost the part of his knee or from his knee down on one leg, I would say he did.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that
So,
now.
all things considered, though, just a recap of the event: Ethan Matthews defeats Ethan Everhart. Brick 12 gauge McCarthy defeats Yoshi Kai. Royal Flava with Buff Bagwell in their corner as honorary members of NWO for the evening, defeated Gen Z to win the RPW Tag Team Championship. JDX defeats Rampage Santana and ZK47 to become the first ever RPW Rage Warriors champion. Stacy Shadows defeated Layla Hall to retain her RPW Women's Champion. Trevor Lee, formerly known as WWE's Cameron Grimes, defeated Hayden Backlund. Casey Lennox defeated Jordan Blue. After the match, Jordan Blue attacked special guest referee CEO Rich Buchholz, earning a 90-day suspension for her actions. And in the main event of the evening, Silas Young defeats Ken Anderson to retain his RPW Heavyweight Championship. So, like I said, a lot of fun. Did not know Rich was a refereeing. He neglected to tell us that ahead of the on the interview. Um, and he took a mean stunner from Jordan Blue.
That was a good sell job by Rich.
Wonderful sell job. But so yeah, that was RPW Destiny 5. Next events, they have the Midwest Cup coming up at RPW Perseverance. That'll be the weekend on Friday, November 7th and November 8th. So back-to-back shows to start the month of November. Tickets are available at Look Sharp in the Fox River Mall, RPW's website, as well as, I believe, over at Big Apple and Manitowoc as well. So get your tickets. It's going to sell fast ahead of RPW Perseverance with the Battle of the Midwest Cup taking place Friday and Saturday nights. All right, with that, Sean, we get into the episode and talk about what we had rooted for in the last, I don't know, 10 days or so. And Sean, what do you got for us this week?
Um, I'm just rooting for this colder weather coming finally, and sick of this 80-degree weather when in October.
Rooting for weather. If that's not meaning you're old, I don't know what is.
Well, I can't deal with this 80-degree weather
Oh,
anymore.
I can't either. I'm
Anyway,
sick of it myself. I do not fare well in this type of weather.
no, and it doesn't feel like fall.
No. Today we got a very stark realization, though, of what it should feel like. So, anything else on your mind from the last, like I said, the last, what was it, 14 or 10 days or so?
No, I don't think so.
Let's see, what do I got? Root for. So, as always, as I've been providing, I've been doing a lot of high school football. So, shout out to the Luxembourg Casco Spartans. They are currently ranked sixth in Division 3. by Bound Wisconsin, which is run by the guys who used to run with sports before they left for Bound. Uh, Big matchup for them coming up this week. I'll tease that a little bit later in the show, but a big win for them this past week over Two Rivers, which I'll talk about a little bit later in the show as well. But yeah, a lot of fun covering high school football this fall. Saw the probably the I did not know this, Sean. Did you know you could get running clock in the first, or you couldn't get running clock in the first quarter? You have to wait till the start of the second quarter to get running clock.
Well, that makes sense. But
It makes sense. I just didn't know it would even be a factor.
right, right. It shouldn't be a factor, but
Because for those that don't know, that's you have to be winning by 35 points to get running clock. And not this last week, but the week before when I was in Kiwani. Kiwani did it to Sturgeon Bay before the end of the first quarter, and they pretty much did that last week against Sturgeon or against Southern Door. So back-to-back weeks where they pretty much had running clock locked up by the start of the second quarter.
yeah, that's crazy.
So high school football has been a blast. I'm gonna always make that my root for. Um, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So that's my root for the week. That's Ben. Uh, Going over to the negative, Sean Tyler here, Noogie of the Week awards. I've got a couple, but I'll let you go here as well.
Um, where do I want to go? I'm gonna give one to Matt LaFleur
Okay.
for well, I'm gonna go back to the Cowboy game and just for not seeming like he wanted to do anything in that final 2 minutes of overtime. He was
Sure.
fine with having it be a tie,
Sure.
which just didn't make any sense, but okay, whatever.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
that's definitely a good one.
and then I think I'm gonna go. Can we just go like the whole Arizona Cardinals team from this Sunday? I
Yeah,
don't know.
I'm
I don't
I'm
know
down
if
with
you
that.
saw any of that, but Kyler Murray had one go off his face mask and then didn't even go for the ball.
hmm
And then the running back dropping the ball at the 1 yard line
Yep.
or fumbling it. And then there was a couple other things I saw. I saw they had like seven things I saw a video on it this morning.
Yeah, pretty much everything that had to go wrong did.
Right.
And they blew a three possession lead in
Yeah.
the fourth quarter.
To the Tennessee Titans.
The worst team in football by far.
Right.
No, that's definitely noogie worthy.
So I think that's all I got though.
All right, I got a couple. I'm gonna start with one that I had last week, and this goes back actually 2 weeks ago. And when we last recorded, when I recorded with Rich, and I forgot about this one, and it pissed me off then, and it pisses me off now yet. And this is actually gonna lead into my second one too. So just bear with me here, Sean. As you know, and I think we've told the story. Apparently, at my brother's wedding, whilst imbibing on the refreshments that were available, I may or may not have had one or two, three, four too many, and was making it well known that I do work in the media.
You do?
I do.
Oh,
One could even say professionally, because I do get paid.
really? Really? Okay.
Now, now that's going to lead into both of two of my nuggies this week. The first one goes to the absolute lack of standard by the Athletic. Because the Athletic beat reporter for the Cleveland Browns wrote and published an article about Shedeur Sanders and how he chose incorrectly. The Sanders family chose the Browns incorrectly, and that they should have chosen a franchise that he could have sat for a year or two and actually developed in a good system like the Packers have done with the last 30 years, or could have gone to like the Ravens or the Eagles with quarterbacks who play a similar style to him, whatever. All these things have options. And that the Sanders family chose wrong, and that Shador's career might be over before it even had a chance to start, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I'm like, they didn't pick to go to Cleveland. Cleveland selected him.
Right.
And yeah, I guess, in a roundabout way, yeah, they could have said, well, you can draft him, we're not going to sign. And he didn't have to sign. They still would have owned his rights, though, for the year. And then he would have sat out and been a bigger spectacle than anything. And it would have just been a big problem, right? Like, I mean, but that was the article that they wrote, or that this guy wrote. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, this is terrible. Because it wasn't like, because that didn't even get brought up. It was like that he got signed as a free agent. They made it sound like.
Right.
I'm like, this is awful. So that's one. The second one leads me to this past Friday in Two Rivers. And I'm not going to get into some of the allegations that I've heard about the football program and the athletic program there, because they're kind of hearsay and whatnot. But, you know, we came from small communities, Sean. Yours bigger than mine
Yeah.
in high school. And areas that, and I still think overall this is the majority of the case, that high schools are happy to have coverage of their sports, right?
Right.
Like that's not a controversial hot take. And generally they will, the schools, as long as you kind of give them a heads up, they'll try to accommodate as much as possible. And so Two Rivers, I had let them know that our broadcast was happening well over a month and a half before the game. And, they said, yep, just, let us know, like, just remind me the week of. We have a couple details that we'll provide then as it's closer, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Week of, email their athletic director, and he says, okay, you'll be in the north press box. And my first thought was, there's two. But I'm like, okay, maybe they have like like if you go to like past Gillett's, they used to have the old press box and then they have the new one on the new bleachers.
Yep.
And they technically, I believe, up until fairly recently actually ran the clock out of the old one. And they might still have some stuff or use up in that near like or the press box that was near the road. I don't even know if it's still standing there, to be honest.
I don't think it is, to be completely honest
Um,
with you.
Regardless, though, like they used it quite some time after they built the new press box and bleachers and coaches boxes and whatever. And now that's going back over 15, almost 15 years now, because I was in high school when that was built. But so, like I said, I'm like, okay, maybe that's the case. I know that they just recently built the new school building at Two Rivers High School. So I'm like, maybe there's, something that's older there, whatever. Didn't really think anything of it. Got to the stadium and the field on Friday, Rams and I did, and they do have, relatively newer bleachers, but where the press, it's on the top of the bleachers like it always would be, but there's two small ones instead of one big one. In between the two, it's not like there's like two bleacher sets. There's just like a 6 foot gap of bleacher that really can't be used for anything.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, well, that's freaking weird, but whatever. Again, not my circus, right? Like, I'm like, just, they said there's room and they said this role will be. So we look at the one, and the one has the Two Rivers coaches setting up, and the email said, oh, you'll be in the one with the PA and the scoreboard and the Luxembourg coaches. So I'm like, okay, cool. I can see where the PA and scoreboard stuff is all set up and where the Luxembourg Casco coaches kind of have their stuff set up. So I'm like, okay, good to go. So Ramsey and I start setting up, and the PA guy comes up. He's like, oh, well, that's not going to work. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, we have the scoreboard guy stands here, I stand here, and we have a spotter. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I'm like, what the hell do you need a spotter for? Like this, first of all, this isn't like it's the NFL
Right.
where the stats are super important for like money and stuff. I mean, it's helpful, but anybody who's even for recruiting sake, anybody who's watching this stuff, they're not going to be, oh, this guy only had 600 yards as a senior or as a junior as opposed to 610, whatever. I'm sitting there
Right.
like, what do you need a spotter for? Like, first of all, that, and it's not like we're in a massive stadium that you can't see. And it's not like this is an older guy either. Like, I couldn't wrap my mind around that. He's like, yeah, and he'll run between the two press boxes, so we need this space. And he's like, well, did the athletic director know you were coming? I'm like, yeah, I emailed him 6 weeks ago, and I even emailed him this week. And they're like, oh, okay, well, I guess we can, kind of wait to see what he says. And I just hate for you to set up all your stuff and then not have room.
Right.
I'm sitting there like, well, yeah, I mean that's a valid point, but the hell are we gonna do? Like you said, we could go here. Um, so I'm starting looking around. Ramsey and I are looking around, and it'd be one thing if in front of like the press box, like we could have set up in the bleachers or whatever. But of course, there's people that have blankets down and all that stuff in front of where there'd be any sort of power source. And so
Right.
I'm like, well, that's not gonna work. So Ramsey this is so funny to me. So Ramsey and I like, well, we found a area where there is some power, by the concession stand, and it's so now instead of being on the press box at like the 40 or 50, um, we're setting up behind the end zone on the ground on like basically on the track, just so we can do this broadcast that they said they could accommodate. And we have to borrow a picnic table. They had extra. Ramsey had to run to the hardware store just to get an extra extension cord. And he went and got a 50-foot extension cord, which was probably about 25 feet more than we needed. But, you'd rather not have to run twice.
Right. Exactly.
Comes back and comes back with the extension cord and a roll of duct tape. And I looked at him, I'm like, the hell do you have duct tape for? He's like, well, it's OSHA standard. If we're having a cord across the ground where people are walking, you have to have it covered. I'm like, are we covered by OSHA right now? And he's like, well, are we working? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, I mean, technically we would be liable. It's our cord. I'm like, shit, good point. So my biggest takeaway from that was really earning that professional on that one. But all it went off relatively without a hitch, and Luxembourg Casco kicked the shit out of them, and they're no longer in the conference after this year, so I don't have to worry about making that long ass drive to Two Rivers either.
Right.
So it's kind of one of those all's well that ends well, but yeah, that was an ordeal.
I bet it was.
And then my last one, this one's gonna go to Cubs fans in general, but one very specifically. It's a playoff game. Don't punch a 10-year-old if you're in a grown man. Did you see that?
No, I did not see this.
There was first of all, there was a massive fight, I guess, on the first base side of the 100 section at Mil or AmFam this weekend during the Brewers Cubs game one. Reportedly, mostly between Cubs fans amongst themselves, but also one Cubs fan got kicked out because he punched a 10-year-old, grown man, punched a 10-year-old and started calling the police and security officers that were there the R word.
Hmm.
I'm like, you drove all that way from wherever, even if you live in Wisconsin, you're a Cubs fan. You drove all that way, paid all that money for a ticket, paid for parking. If you're from Illinois, you paid tolls to get there. And you're going to get kicked out before the second inning's over for being that stupid?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, that kind of goes the whole thing. Like, I can't imagine getting in a fight at a sporting event anyway.
Come on, your wife almost did.
For, for clarity's sake, for clarity's sake, she did not almost get in a fight. She did have a back and forth with a also probably like a 10-year-old, but it was at a wrestling thing and it was about like she did the John Cena "You Can't See Me." I don't think she actually almost got in an actual fight and almost actually punched a 10-year-old.
She was ready for it though.
Again, I'm gonna say for clarity's sake, I don't think that was the case.
No? Okay.
But I can see where you're coming from. But I'm gonna say that's a little bit of a different situation.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so just don't be stupid.
Right.
I think that alone is noogie worthy.
Yep.
I don't really know if I have any other ones other than I don't
Okay.
know if I love staying up back to back weeks where the Sunday night football game goes till almost 11 o'clock.
Oh, you did stay up and watch it last night?
I did, and I kind of hated myself for it. And then as I'm sitting there thinking, oh man, this was a bad idea. I'm like, oh shit, the Brewers played 8 o'clock tonight or
Can
tomorrow
can we
night.
all can we give a shout out to the Bills guy who caught the pass in the stands and then just bolted?
That was awesome. That was well played. Just got out of
And
Dodge.
and then the commentators just keep going with it, and it was just funny.
Yeah, that was wonderful. So that's all the noogies I have this week. I really can't think of if there's anything else that really got me, but those
Well,
two were the biggest ones.
okay. I got one more, just a quick one. We're just
All
gonna
right.
give one to we're just gonna give one to Mark Sanchez
Oh yeah, I was gonna go with that one too, but I forgot
because
about that. I'm glad you brought that back up.
I'm just watching the news here and it just popped up. So
Yeah,
that's that can be just a quick one.
my first takeaway on that was, holy shit, Mark Sanchez got stabbed, and then it was, oh, he's the bad guy here.
Right?
What a plot twist, Okay. Anyway, back to Wisconsin, or back to our normally scheduled programming. Takes us to our Wisconsin web story of the week. And Sean, this actually might be perfect. Um, this is probably about as Wisconsin as it gets. And I'm sure you saw this, but Kwik Trip announced early last week, or late last week, I should say, that it is getting rid of Pennies at its 900 convenience stores. Instead, cash transaction will be rounded down to the nearest 5 cents to the advantage of the customers paying cash. Credit card and digital transactions remain the same. For example, if a $1.04 cash purchase made in the store would round down to $1, but a credit card purchase of 104 would still cost 104.
Yep.
Kwik Trip says stores will enact the new cash transaction policy as their penny supplies are exhausted, indicating stores will be going penniless at different times. Quote from the president's CEO, Scott Zeitlow. This change reflects our ongoing focus on guest experience. We apologize for any confusion this may create for our guests. End quote. Kwik Trip says its regular register systems have been updated to automatically to apply the rounding rules on cash transactions. In a statement, the company cited a lack of guidance from the U.S. Department of Treasury after the decision to stop minting new pennies. Kwik Trip said that policy is in effect until a permanent legislative solution is enacted. According to its website, Kwik Trip serves almost 12 million people every week. It has stores across Wisconsin, Minnesota, northern Michigan, Iowa, Illinois, and South Dakota.
Interesting.
So eliminating pennies at Kwik Trip. Not first of all, I think my first takeaway from this was 900 locations.
Yeah, and that's just Wisconsin, right?
No, that's across the whatever I said 4 or 5 states.
Oh, okay.
Um, but also like I mean that's just I mean I think it's kind of cool that they are doing that in the sense of at least it's benefiting people pay in cash.
Right.
I very rarely pay in cash. That's
I don't think
well
I've ever seen
established.
you carry cash.
Yeah, I rarely do. The only time I really do is during football season when I'm doing rookie show, and that's how I get paid from him.
Ah, gotcha.
So it's $30 at a time.
That makes sense then.
Well, see, the problem I have is if I have cash, if I have to like pull cash out or whatever, I feel like I already spent it. And so I'm very willy-nilly with cash, or at least with a card, I kind of have to think about it for a half second if I really want to purchase whatever.
It comes out of the same account.
It does, but if I have the cash, I already have it out of my account.
That makes absolutely no sense.
Oh, sure it does. I think it makes a lot of sense. If I'm sitting there, like I said,
No.
if Sean, hear me out. All right. If you have $100 in your account, right,
Yep.
and you have to take out, I don't know, just say 20, for example, to go do something, or
Yep.
you just take it out to have it, whatever. Now your account says $80 and you have 20 in your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you go do something, you have $100 in your account, they take card. I'm much more likely to think about if I need to buy that or whatever if they take card because I'm like, do I really need it? Do I not? Yeah, I'll do it, whatever. Whereas if they don't and if I take that cash out, well then it's already spent, and now it's like, oh screw it, I might as well.
That still doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think
'Cause-
if, for all 20 of our listeners, I think there's at least one person that's going to agree with me on that.
Sure.
I guarantee it. Guaranteed.
Whatever you say, boss.
There's logic in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But that's our Wisconsin web story of the week. Takes us next to our look at back into the sporting world, and I don't even really want to talk about the Badgers anymore.
No, we're done with them.
They are just, it's just so frustrating and how they can just be so bad. I don't, well, I know we talked about this. I don't understand how they regress so hard. And I still don't think it's Luke Fickle's fault or mostly his fault.
Then whose fault is it?
I think it's NIL culture. And it's not like a bad thing. I'm not knocking NIL culture because I think it's good that the things are kind of actually evened out for the players and whatnot. But I think it's on Wisconsin as a whole for just not keeping up.
Right.
When it's when it takes the effort to keep up and they're just not doing it seemingly. Like I said, I'm really at a loss as to what they have going on and how they can just have fallen off a cliff. Because the reason I don't really blame Fickle is I think this was going to happen regardless of who was coaching. Whether they had kept Chris, whether they had hired Jim Leonard, or they went with Fickle. I think they're in the same spot now, no matter which of those three, or pick whoever.
Okay.
But yeah,
So here's my question for you.
I'm
Is
all
it
yours.
is it the Wisconsin is it the culture of just like the state of Wisconsin that is doesn't want to spend the money? Is that
Well,
what you're kind of thinking? Or to
I, and
get some
I
more of
think
these
I
guys?
said this. I might have said this 2 weeks ago, and maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Um, my thing is, I don't think that's the case because I think there's enough of a window where we can look at like Wisconsin basketball has kept up, right? Like they've been
Yeah.
a higher seed in the NCAA tournament. Granted, it hasn't led to the postseason success, but they've been okay.
But even that's fell off too compared to where they were at one
Yeah,
point. I
but if
mean,
you're thinking about, if you're taking what the Badgers were, there was a handful of years there where they were, the two Final Four teams, including that national championship runner-up. But for the most part, they were, win a tournament game, maybe go to the second weekend. They've pretty much maintained, right? Like as a whole, over our lifetimes, that's been about, round of 32, Sweet 16 has been the typical result. And with NIL culture, first of all, I think it's a lot easier to kind of get around the transfer portal and whatnot because people I'll often point to. I think a lot of it also has to do with the academic standards and everything that goes into that up front.
well, yeah. So
But
so do you
but to
think that's ever
answer,
going to go away?
probably not. But I think it's different because, and this is where I think basketball and just about every other sport except football has an advantage, is you see in college it's a lot easier to skirt GPAs. Like it's super easy to get a pretty decent GPA in college.
Yeah, you
Like,
did.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And I didn't even have to. I didn't even have a reason to have to try. Like I didn't have
Right.
a scholarship. I didn't have whatever. So to that same end though, when when you can get into college and you can, say, you go your freshman year somewhere, say Green Bay. Say you go to Green Bay for a year, you get that GPA somewhere between a 3 and a 4, even a 3.5 to a 4, whatever it ends up being. It's a lot easier to transfer to a school like Madison like that instead of coming out of high school, depending no matter what your situation is. Because now you have a college GPA to point it on and say, hey, this is what I did in college, this is gonna make it easier to transfer. So to that same end, you can replace, even if it's 3 or 4 basketball players, and have a lot more meaningful impact than 3 or 4 football players. And you basically, even if two of those 3 or 4 basketball players don't really have the same effect as, maybe somebody who graduated or transferred out, we just look at John Tanji for the Badgers, who was, I think first team all Big Ten and might have been Big Ten player of the year. I can't remember if he was or wasn't, but regardless, had a huge impact on the Badgers basketball team. And there was I think they probably had 2 transfers that didn't even really play, and whatever. So even if it's simple as 1 out of 3, which I think they probably had more, but you bet 33% 1 out of 3, that one can still have a massive impact. Where if you're only getting, I don't know, even 5 or 6 football transfers, you basically have to hit home runs on all of them
Right.
to have the same impact as a basketball team would. So I think that's a big part of it.
Well,
But that's just me. I could be wrong. It has happened before.
they got to do something. Is pretty much what it's coming down to. They just got to do something.
They do. I honestly I don't know what solves it. I have an option or two because I don't.
Bill Belichick.
Well, that's not the one, but
Oh, okay. Mike
um,
McCarthy.
that's also wasn't what I was planning. That one's kind of funny though. That one made my dad say that if they made that move, he would not watch Badger football until he was gone. Now, whether or not I believe him, I don't know. He's stubborn though, so I probably would be led to believe him. No, my if we're insistent on firing Luke Fickle, which I think financial, if you're a school that's struggling with NIL and money, I don't think you're going to want to pay him his buyout if it's as dire as people make it sound like it is. So that's something to consider. But let's just say that would be the answer. that they go with or part of the solution that they go with. Um, I'm looking at Dave Aranda out of Baylor, who was a Wisconsin defensive coordinator. He's their head coach now. You could probably get him back here because he was here when I think he was one of Bielema's DCs. Or I'd be looking at Lance Leipold out of he's the Kansas head coach right now, and he's kind of turned Kansas around.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the one who took Whitewater to the national championship all those years.
Yep.
And
Yep.
he's gone from Whitewater to Buffalo, now to Kansas, and has been really good at just about every spot he's been. So
Yeah, that would be an idea too.
those would be the two that I would advocate for. I'm sure there's other candidates should they go that route. Um, so we'll see. But a lot of season left for the Badgers. They're 2-3. They did cover this last week though, Sean. So maybe
It's
things are turning in the right direction.
all that matters.
Good teams win, great teams cover.
Right.
So with that, they'll be on to Iowa this week. They are a 3.5 point dog to Iowa at home. Saturday night at Camp Randall. Tickets are
Ooh, a
dirt cheap for that
night
one.
game at Camp Randall.
Yeah, tickets are dirt cheap because both teams suck. So maybe that'll be our ticket of the week later in the show.
There you go.
Yeah, so Badgers really don't have else much on for them. I do know, and this would be my other, I'll just tease it. But Green Bay men's basketball has their first exhibition this weekend. Will not be able to make that one, unfortunately, but if you're able to, really cool thing that they got going on. They have Bradley coming in for their one of their exhibition games. Bradley, now coached by former Green Bay coach Brian Wardle. And at halftime, I believe at halftime, I could be wrong about that. I don't have all the details off the top of my head, but either at halftime or before the game, Green Bay will be retiring number 24 for Kiefer Sykes, who is now the program's first general manager.
Really
Yeah.
interesting.
So Kiefer Sykes to be honored ahead of that, or ahead or halftime, or maybe both. I don't know, of that game. But yeah, he joins the coaching staff, kind of serving as an ambassador slash recruiter for the Chicago area, and he's still continuing his playing career yet. Playing overseas and whatnot too. So just kind of serving as an ambassador for Green Bay basketball worldwide and joining
Interesting.
Coach Gottlieb's staff. So really cool to have him back in the fold there and honoring him ahead of the exhibition game against Bradley and getting Coach Wardle back in Green Bay as well.
Hmm.
So it is preview week. I'll just tease this quick here too. It is preview week for the Horizon Roundtable. Be sure to check out all the happenings over there. Wrote some stuff about Green Bay basketball that's coming out this week, so you're going to want to check it out. A lot of fun stuff happening with Green Bay this year, I think.
Way to
Men and
plug
women's.
way to plug being a media professional.
I know. I do what I can. All right, Sean. Before we get to the Packers, let's take I should say just a quick look, but a quick look at the Milwaukee Brewers. Finished their regular season with a franchise record 97 wins and clinched the number one overall seed in the MLB playoffs, home field advantage all the way through the playoffs as long as they're still in them. And got off to a hot start in game one against Chicago. Gave up a leadoff home run, but very quickly turned the tide on that game. A 6-run first inning, part of a 9-1 advantage that they took through the first two innings, and then coasted to a 9-3 win in game one.
Yeah, I loved. There's a Cubs fan on TikTok, and just loved his reactions to everything. It was
Yeah,
just hilarious to watch.
it was so great. They always say, "Oh, Wrigley North, Wrigley North," as if the Brewers haven't really kind of been their daddy since 2018.
Right.
And yeah, I'll be honest, when that leadoff home run happened, I'm like, oh shit.
Right, here we go again.
Yeah. And then three straight doubles to the first three hitters for the Brewers, and I'm like, oh, this is what this feels like. Not hating my whole life for a playoff game.
Right.
And I don't. Did you get a chance to read William Contreras's letter in the Player Tribune?
No, I didn't.
So first of all, I'm gonna say, go give it a read at some point because it is. It'll tear at your heartstrings a little bit. It gets you a little misty eyed. How he first kind of when he first reacted to getting traded to Milwaukee, I think he told his agent, "Really, trade me back." He said, but then quickly learned that Milwaukee loved baseball and it was a great baseball city. He did say, and I kind of figured this out just reading between the lines when they were. So his first season was 2023, their first division title in this last run of three, and he had said when they lost that series, that was the Diamondbacks year. They lost that wild card series to the Diamondbacks. That as upset as he was, there were guys in the clubhouse after the game saying, "Well, at least I can go fishing." And that's kind of where he realized things needed to change in the culture.
Right.
And then just not coincidentally, but coincidentally, maybe, maybe not coincidentally, but they move on from Craig Counsell at that point. They kind of get rid of some of the older players that, besides the young core, um, and we really see a youth movement that started last year. Really it started 2023, but really took off last year. He did go on to say that a lot of the guys, himself included, knew that it was likely going to be Euchre's last playoff run and that they were trying to win it for him last year.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all heartbroken because if you remember correctly, or maybe if I remember correctly, like when that happened, it felt like only Christian Yelich was kind of on the inside with Euchre and the family and whatnot. But it now we kind of know it was actually the majority of the team, if not all of them. Which isn't, a huge revelation or breaking news or anything like that. Just, that they came up short and now it's a different way to go for a goal. And really, like he said that he has not felt the team like that since the 2021 season, not even in Atlanta, when him and the Braves won the World Series. So, says
Yeah.
kind of has that feel to it. Make of that what you will. But franchise record, a fun game on Saturday. Really, the only downside to tonight's game is that it's at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, why is it so late tonight?
It's a great
Because that's how
question. I think part of it is because of
Monday Night Football.
Monday Night Football and trying to kind of compete. The other thing to kind of consider is that they do have the other game going tonight is Dodgers Phillies, which is in Philadelphia,
Mm.
so East Coast time zone.
Yep.
Um, if this was in LA, I think it'd be switched around, obviously, if not even later.
Right.
But because that game's in Philadelphia, they have to go a little earlier there, and they don't want to really have too much overlap, which I also kind of get, but I also think is kind of stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite noogie worthy. I mean, it kind of is what it is, but
Yeah.
or more than it's just like, oh, 8 o'clock.
Right.
I do love. I don't know if you how much you've seen into this, but uh, first of all, Jackson Churio is playing tonight,
Yep. I just saw that.
so he is leading off, playing in the outfield, so not even DHing. So very positive news there. But um, I think my favorite Pat Murphy might be my favorite manager the Brewers have ever had. Uh, so I'm assuming you saw this too, Sean. Is that they are starting Aaron Ashby tonight? They're kind of going with the opener role.
Yep.
And initially, the thinking on it was going to be that it was either going to be Priester or Quintana's game
Mm-hmm.
before they won game one. And that's kind of how it was lining up. But they win game one. and on Sunday he announced that it was going to be Ashby, which I don't have a problem with.
Right.
Um, because Craig Counsell, being how he manages games, he's going to tinker his lineup to accommodate for that left-handed starter or opener.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is going to be, how long do you let Ashby go? Do you give him one inning? Because you have to give at least three batters. Do you go one inning or do you go multiple? Like, do you go like a two or three once through the lineup, whatever?
Right.
And as expected, Council did what he did with his lineup, and I think like Justin Turner's leading off tonight for the Cubs.
Okay.
Which, I mean, he is a Brewers killer. He had that 2018 postseason and 2020
Yeah.
postseason, so don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here. But that was also 7 years ago.
Right. He's 40.
Right. So the reaction, because they're not playing Michael Bush, who hit the leadoff home run and has been arguably probably their hottest hitter in the last month. He's not playing because of this opener.
Yeah.
And the thought is that Murphy's going to go to Quintana or to go to Priester because it'd be his turn in the rotation. It kind of lines up with, kind of trying to catch them off balance or whatever. And, then Council's going to have to pinch hit and, kind of go through his pinch hitters earlier than he'd want to, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But what if, Sean, and I thought this was really funny, what if this is all a ploy? Because if the Brewers, when they announced their postseason lineup, they kept DL Hall and Robert Gossard. They're two hard throwing lefties.
Yep.
So instead of going to Priester, what if tonight, because they do have another built in day off for Wednesday, or tomorrow ahead of Wednesday, which would be when game three happens. Would you hate the idea of going Ashby, Quintana, Gosser, and just going all lefties and making Council keep that lineup?
No.
And wouldn't that be just, I mean, it's the most chess way to play this, I think. I'm not expecting that to happen,
Right.
but I would find it so damn funny if that's what Murph does and just says, okay, I know you're going to go matchup based and go sabermetrics and money ball, blah, blah, blah. Here's how I'm going to counter that, and I'm going to make you play a lineup that you don't want to, and I'm going to stick with it the whole game.
Right. It'd be the way to go. I mean, why not? Just fuck with them.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying. Is I would love for it to be Quintana, Ashby, Quintana, Hall. Go all
Mm-hmm.
three of your lefties, and then go Priester for game three to try to close this out, ideally.
Right. Right.
Or the other option is too, Ashby, even in the spring training, was a starter this year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's kind of been your long relief guy, kind of like how Brent Suter was at the end of his time here. But there's nothing saying that he couldn't go out and actually have a 4 or 5 inning start if called upon.
Right.
Is that the result that I want to see? No. But could it happen? Absolutely.
Yeah, if he's dealing, why not just ride him as long as we can?
Exactly. So
So,
that's the Brewers. We'll obviously we're talking about it ahead of game two. By the time this episode drops, we'll know if Brewers are going to Chicago up 2-0 or up or tied at 1-1. We'll see. The Dodgers do lead the Philadelphia series in the other NLDS game. They just took a massive lead in that one as well. So they just kind of opened that one up a bit. So definitely something to watch. We'll see. But it's starting to get real fun, as if it
right.
hasn't already been.
Right.
That takes us to just Sean, just wrapping up here with the Packers. And Packers had the bye week this last week, so that I don't know, that really couldn't have came at a better time. I still usually rather prefer it later in the season, but if it was going to come early, probably a good time now.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah. But I think it was much needed.
Yeah, I think, it's just kind of one of those to to kind of get everybody back on the same track. Christian Watson did practice today, was activated off the pup, which coming back from a torn ACL in it would amount if he did play this Sunday, which not necessarily saying that he's going to, but if he did play this week, he'd be back from an ACL in 6 games, even with the offseason. Obviously, the offseason,
Mm-hmm.
but accounts for 274 days, one of the quickest ACL recoveries in modern history.
Right.
So really cool, just that happening alone. But kind of going back to that Dallas game, yeah, you kind of said earlier. I think what really killed it was having to stay up until almost 11:30 just to see it tie.
Right.
That really sent a lot of people over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it kind of sucked. Just feeling like you're not going for a win, considering how well they had moved the ball throughout the whole game on the offensive end. All you have to do is score a touchdown. Why not really put the hammer down and go for it?
Right. Especially when you're at the 20-yard line
Right,
and to almost blow it at the end, anyways.
right, for sure. So another game with an oddity. You had the two or the blocked field goal taken back for 2 points for Dallas, which had a much bigger impact than it should have.
Yeah, that can be another thing. Or I think Basacci has got to go.
I would agree,
I mean, that's
just for what they're paying him. I mean,
right. I mean, the last
it's
two years, there's been what, four total block field goals, something like that.
something like yeah. It's
Maybe
been
maybe more than that.
it's been entirely too many.
But it's obvious that people are seeing something that you had them in 2 straight weeks.
Right, and they came from different spots too.
Right.
So yeah, it's certainly odd how it's been going down, but I think like a good time to regroup and kind of get stuff back flowing and get everybody that was a little dinged up a little healthier.
Yeah.
So next, what is it? Next, let's see, they played four. Next 13 weeks straight, we've got Packer football just about every Sunday. Couple,
Yep.
I think one more Thursday game. They played Thanksgiving this year.
Yep. Because they
So
play in Detroit on Thanksgiving, right?
yes, but that's why they play the game. Packers will go, or they'll be back home to start the quote unquote second half of the season, which is odd to say for week 6,
Right.
but they'll be at home. Taking a look at that here a little ahead of ourselves, I believe they should. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to be a favorite with how bad Cincinnati looked. Yeah, they're as of right now, with given that we don't know who's going to be playing quarterback for Cincinnati. ESPN shows the Packers as a 14.5 point favorite.
Whew. That's a little too much, I think.
If I was going to bet on this one, I'd put a bet in right now on Cincinnati covering that,
Yeah.
purely because 14.5 to cover is a lot.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that the Packers can't win by 14 or will actually be 15 points, but to go into it and have to do it, yeah, that's a tough bet.
Very tough. Very tough.
If you had to pick Sean, do you think they cover it?
No,
No. You think that's going to be closer than 14?
I think so.
Gun to your head right now. What's your prediction for Sunday?
I think it's going to be like 21-10.
Really?
I think it's going to be something like that.
Really?
Or it's going to end up being like 28-17. They're going to score Cincinnati's going to score a touchdown in garbage time or something like that.
I think that's a
It,
little more likely. I'll give you that one.
maybe it'd be like 28-10 with like 2 minutes or five, just say 5 minutes left, and they'll go and score a touchdown, and then they won't
I'll give
cover
you
it.
that one. I think that could happen. Um,
I think it's gonna look a lot closer on paper than it is during the game. I'm hoping, but
sure. I'm going to say this just straight out. I am not going to bet them to cover, but if I had to predict what I think happens, I do think they actually end up covering this. I
mhm.
think this is going to be a get right game with, you know, I don't think it really matters who plays quarterback for them because I think they're not that good. I saw there was a point in the third quarter yesterday before they actually took it off the broadcast because the game was that far apart that
Mhm.
Jamar Chase had more tackles than targets.
Yep.
And whether it be Jake Browning or Brett Rippon or emergency third quarterback Sean Clifford, which God, when I like Sean Clifford the person, Sean Clifford the quarterback sucks
Right.
in the NFL. I'll be very clear about that. In the NFL, those Penn State fans are brutal. So I don't
Mhm.
want to piss off the wrong people, but Sean Clifford, the NFL quarterback, is not great. So I don't think it who matters who plays. I think Green Bay, the pass rush gets after them a little bit more. I still, I think I wrote about this last week. I would love to see some sort of corner depth be added.
Yeah.
I don't know if you kick the tires on, giving Stephon Gilmore a couple million to come in. You have $11 million of cap room as of right now. And it's still
Is it
early.
is Rasul Douglas still available or no?
He
Or
is
did he?
not. I think
Oh, he
I want
signed
to say he's
somewhere.
with Miami.
Okay.
The top cornerback free, there's four free agents that I think they could go after, and there's probably a trade they could make. And this is in no particular order of likelihood because I think, if we're being honest, the overwhelmingly likely odds is they don't do anything.
Right.
But they have $11 million in cap room. You've already made this huge investment to kind of go all in on these next couple of years. Pay it off. Really take the all in, whether it be signing one of these guys to a contract and those options for a contract, and these vary on pros and cons. The most bang for your buck in terms of age, talent, whatever, is probably Asante Samuel Jr.
Yeah, that would make sense.
The problem with him is he's coming off an injury that he had to have surgery on his spine this last season. Missed the rest of the season this last year, and actually ended up not being able to sign this spring because he hasn't been cleared yet. By all reports, I think there's an MRI this week or late last week to determine where he's at with that recovery. Expectations are currently, and this is per I think Ian Rappaport reported this, um, that the expectation is he'll get the okay to go, and that actually the Packers are one of the teams that have shown interest throughout the fall and spring. I think it'd be actually a pretty good natural fit. He's probably the best cover corner out on the market, but when you have a spinal injury, obviously you got to make sure everything's right.
Right.
So he had to get a spinal fusion. If he's good, you probably have a couple week ramp up in practice and whatnot. I probably assume, I'm assuming he's probably been keeping himself relatively healthy and in shape, just not necessarily football shape. You're probably looking at getting him, even if he signs this week, maybe in early November.
Mm-hmm. Which I think would be fine.
I would agree. Um, Other options out there, and I think these are going to actually end up probably being a little bit cheaper in terms of cap impact. Though I don't think, I think anybody that you kind of go with at this point, given that you're a quarter of the way through the season, probably isn't going to be a massive cap hit because it's going to be either a trade's going to be prorated or you're kind of in a point of get kind of on prove it deals for these guys that are still in the market through 4 weeks or 5 weeks.
Right.
Um, James Bradbury, formerly of the Giants, Panthers, most recently the Eagles, who had some looks. I believe he was even a Defensive Player of the Year or Defensive Rookie of the Year finalist at one point.
I think so.
Um, he missed all of last season with a torn Achilles and soleus, but also when he what last season or one of the last seasons he played when he did play a full season, which was 2022, was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, All Pro, yada yada.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, was a massive part of that Philadelphia Eagles team that went to the Super Bowl and then ultimately lost to the Chiefs. So definitely would be one to consider there. Um, I think you can either kick the tires on Stephon Gilmore or Kendall Fuller. I don't think either one of those would probably be a terrible option.
No,
Uh,
it doesn't seem
Fuller's
like
got
it.
a Fuller's a little bit younger, but I believe both of them were. I mean, both were pretty solid last year. Even Stephon Gilmore at now 35 years old, I think even at his kind of, I would say last year is probably one of his worst seasons. Still only let up a completion rating of about 60%, which that's more of a depth move than a star move, but I think it gets you through the season. I think if, where Green Bay is at as a franchise, you're not trying to go get your future all pro cornerback. That's the future of your defense. You're getting a guy to get you through to the draft.
Did I lose you?
I'm still here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I didn't lose you. I'm still here.
Okay. I just
Um, but yeah, I don't know if you heard. I had said you're not necessarily looking for your future of your defensive secondary. You're more or less looking for a guy who can get you to the draft.
right, exactly.
Get you through this season, get you to the draft. So Fuller, Gilmore, whoever. And then there is some talk about Tariq, aka Reek, Woolen. He's been in really, really good out of Seattle, except this year he's playing limited snaps because he's in a contract year as well. And the belief is that Seattle's not playing him because they're trying to put his numbers down for
Yeah.
extension talk. Um, he is giving up a pretty high passer rating this season, but it's also a much smaller sample size than normal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be inflated and convoluted. But even him, I looked because this was part of the thing is even if you go that route and make a trade, I think and yeah, it's a rental, it's a 1 year player. But he was owed 5 million to start the season. You're a quarter of the way in, which you're probably taking some proration and all that anyway. So that's what quarter of five. You're probably looking at 3.54 million of your 11 million in cap,
Right.
give or take. I think that's worth it. There is another Joshua Williams could be an option. He's a primarily been a special teamer for Kansas City, but he's been a really good cover corner when he has at the start. Be definitely a move I'd consider there as well.
Yeah. Hopefully they can do something, or I mean, we can't have a wide receiver playing corner anymore. I mean,
Well, and he hasn't even played. He's been hurt.
right.
But Nate Hobbs isn't the answer. Nate Hobbs this is what I can't really wrap my mind around. And I know the draft didn't necessarily, it fell the way it did. They put a lot of focus on offense. Kind of that is what it is. I think the corners that they wanted to take ended up getting taken a few picks ahead of them each time that they had one, so they kind of went back up on their board.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to speculate on that, but if I had to be, taking a look at, you know, plans here, I don't think your defensive back room was great with Jair, and he's had when he has played, I think he's only played 2 weeks for Baltimore.
Right.
But even with him healthy, I don't think you're having, you don't feel great about the room you have, and you didn't really do much. to replace him when you had him for sure.
No.
When you had him under contract, you more or less replaced Eric Stokes with Nate Hobbs. I don't think that even on his best year, Nate Hobbs would have been to the level that you're wanting him to be,
No.
or that you're hoping. If that's your big backup plan, which I think is a shitty backup plan if that's the case.
Yeah.
But I just like I said, I don't know what the plan was there, and then to not really have a backup plan if and when you end up ultimately moving Jair Alexander. But I just kind of it just frustrates me because that's the problem with the defense.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going to be the problem with or without Micah Parsons, but now it's amplified because you just made this massive investment into a guy that is worth it. I still stand by that one. He's 100% worth it. But now you have to show why you made the investment.
Yep.
So, anyway, that's my 2 cents on the Packers.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts of yours, Sean, about the team ahead of Cincinnati?
No, I think it's just got to be a get right game, and that's about it.
I can agree with that. And hopefully that's the case. And hopefully, again, this is not betting advice. I don't give betting advice because I hate picking covers in terms of betting. I love picking covers when we're talking about it on the show. We know that
Right.
in our show's history, the majority of the time that we pick covers.
Still
But
dumb, but
I hate betting on them.
right.
Anyway, so with that, Sean, we'll wrap up and talk about what we're rooting for. Before we do that, though, do want to shout out our ticket partner of Ticket Smarter. And we had mentioned it earlier in the show, talking about the Badgers. And as bad as they are this season, I'm still going to give them a nod here of our ticket of the week. Mostly because I'm sure they're dirt cheap. And through Ticket Smarter, you can get $10 off of any ticket order with code ROOT4. As of right now, it looks like they're $30, $40 tops. Just kind of looking around other spots on the secondary market, I feel like they're probably even less than that. Game Time has them at 54. But I'm willing to bet as Saturday comes closer, that might come down quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen them as low as about 30 at different times. So if you are heart set on going and seeing Camp Randall, which is an experience, ticketsmarter.com or Ticketsmarter app, use code Roots10 or Root10 or Root4. Roots. I don't know what the hell our code is anymore. I think it's Root4. $10 off your order. Sean, with that, let's get out of here. What are you rooting for this week?
I'm rooting for the Brewers. I'm rooting for the Packers, and that's about it.
All right, I'm gonna go. Obviously, Packers Brewers. I'm gonna throw in. I got a huge game this weekend, or not even this weekend. This Thursday, little oddity, a little Thursday night lights. Luxembourg Casco, Battle of the LCs. Luxembourg versus Little Chute. Potentially determines the Northeastern Conference. Both teams coming in, I believe, undefeated in conference. Little Chute has one loss on the season, and that was I believe it was a non-conference game. I want to double check that though. Little Chute's one loss on the season came in the non-conference against a very good Winneconne team who is ranked number 1 in their division. So if you got nothing to do Thursday night and you're not really feeling watching whatever the Thursday night football game is this week, which I'm not even 100% sure of what it is, come out to Luxembourg. It's going to be a showdown. Yeah, it's Eagles-Giants. You're not going to want to watch that. Come to Luxembourg, Thursday night football, 7 o'clock. Or listen to 104.1 WRLU, New Radio Sports Network.com for those out of area. It is going to be a hell of a game to determine who wins that conference. Senior night homecoming for Luxembourg. Can't wait. All right. With that, Sean, episode 170 is in the books for Shauna, Dylan, Justin, Ramsey. Almost right.
I think so.
I'm Eric. That's Sean. We're out. See ya.
See ya.